and the predicate any of the conclusion any is in the major premise. So this is any the fourth shakl, which we call it shakl rabi'. So there are conditions. There are conditions any pertaining any to the shakl. So let us any return any to our sullam of Imam al-Akhdari, where he mentioned warabi'un adamu jam'il khissataini illa bisuratin fafiha yastabin. So he said that the condition that the fourth any form any be muntij, that it can provide any valid any conclusion, is that it should not any have khissatain. It should not have khissatain. The meaning of khissatain is basically, number one, it is particular, al-juz'iyya, and number two is saliba, that is any the negative. So negative and particular should not any be in that argument, whether we are speaking about the minor premise or the major premise, and both the minor and the major premise, and it cannot carry a particular and it cannot carry a negative any particle. So this is the meaning any of al-khissatain. Al-khissatain any in Mantiq, it refers any to negativity and particular. So the author any mentioned warabi'un, yani as for the shakl rabi', the condition any is that adamu jam'il khissatain, that these two khissatain yani should not be present in that argument, illa bisuratin, except yani in one situation, fafiha yastabin, and that situation yani he says surahuma mujibah, that the minor premise yani carries positivity, and juz'iyya, a positive particular yani sentence, kubrahuma salibatun kulliyah. For the major yani premise, it is saliba kulliyah, it is a universal negative statement. So this is the only syllogism that can produce a valid conclusion. Other than that, yani all of it are invalid. So let us look at the conditions. So we will go back into the commentary yani by Sheikh Said Fuda, yani he mentioned any of these examples. So this is where we mention the fourth yani shakl. Ashaklu rabi'. Now we have the shurutul intaj. Yani shurutul intaj, it is the conditions any of the validity. Conditions any of the validity any of the conclusion. So number one, in lam takun surah mujiba juz'iyya fayushtaratu adamul jam'i bayna al-khissatain wa huma al-juz'iyya wa salb. So the first thing any the author any mentioned is the khissatain. That's what we mentioned earlier. So there must be no particular and negativity in that argument. Sawa'un kana dhalika min jinsin wahid kasalibatain aw juz'iyatain. Regardless any whether they are two negative or two yani particular, aw min jinsaini kasalibatin juz'iyya, or one negative and one particular. For example, any you have any the premise saliba juz'iyya, a particular negative. So in any of the premise any if there is negative particular, then any it will not be muntij, it will be aqim. Yani the syllogism any will not any provide a valid conclusion. So this is any the first condition. Wa in kana surah mujiba, if the first any premise is mujiba juz'iyya fa shartuhu kaunul kubra saliba kulliyya. If the first any premise any is mujiba juz'iyya, yani it is a positive particular, then the major any premise any is saliba kulliyya, yani universal negative. Then any he mentioned fa in kana surah saliba kulliyya, if the minor any premise is saliba kulliyya, negative universal, antajat ma'al mujiba kulliyya al kubra. So it will give any a valid any conclusion, and if the major premise is mujiba kulliyya. Mujiba kulliyya yani universal positive. Wa in kanat saliba juz'iyya lam tuntij. But if it is negative particular, it will not any give in touch, and it will not any give any the conclusion. Why? لِاجْتِمَاعِ الْخِصَّتَيْنِ فِيهَا, because any there is khissatayn, as what any we mentioned. So here we have any of you any examples. The first example, any what you call it, if the minor premise is mujiba juz'iyya, then the major premise any is saliba yani kulliyya. If the minor premise is saliba kulliyya, then the major premise any must be mujiba kulliyya. So the author yani mentioned from here, yani there are 4 types yani of this kind yani of syllogism that will give the valid conclusions. So he says salasatun ma'al mujiba kulliya surah wa wahidun ma'a saliba al kulliya al kubra. So 3 yani will come if 3 yani of the 4 that is valid. Yani it comes any from mujiba kulliya when it comes any to the minor premise. And the minor premise is mujiba kulliya, that is universal and positive. If the minor premise is universal and positive, then we will have any 3 Mantiq, 3 types any of syllogism, any that gives the proper conclusions. Wa wahidun ma'a salibatil kulliya al kubra, and there is one with saliba kulliya, and this is the exception any that we mentioned just now, that if yani the major yani premise is saliba yani kulliya. And then he mentioned wa yustasna min suwaril aqima suratun wahida faqat tajtami'u fiha al-khissatayn lakinnaha muntija. So there is one any exception, that even yani the khissatayn yani are there, but it will still yani be muntij. Wa hiya makanat suraha mujiba juz'iyya, yani the minor premise yani is mujiba juz'iyya, the major yani premise is saliba kulliya. This is any the exception. So from here there are altogether 5 any types any of syllogism any that gives the proper conclusions. So this is what any the author any mentioned, ad-durub al-muntija, al-hasil anna ad-durub al-muntija fi hadha shakl khamsa. So basically any for shakl rabi', for the 4th any form, we have any 5 types. 5 types any that is muntija. So we will go through yani inshallah ta'ala one by one. Yani if some of you are not clear, any let us look at this any example. So number 1 yani the first any example, both yani the premise mujiba and kulliya. So the minor premise is mujiba kulliya, the major premise is mujiba kulliya, and then no problem, this is muntij, because why? There is no khissatayn, there is no negativity, nor there is no particular. So an example yani will be kullu insan hayawan wa kullu natiqin insan. The conclusion yani will be ba'dul hayawan natiq. The first premise yani say kullu insan hayawan. The first the minor premise kullu insan hayawan, yani all humans yani are beings. The major premise says wa kullu natiqin insan, and all intellectual beings are humans. Then the natija yani is ba'dul hayawan natiq, yani some yani of beings are intellectual yani beings. So this is an example of what? Mujiba kulliya. Yani the first any premise is mujiba kulliya, the second premise is also mujiba kulliya. So this is any the first type. This is the first type any of the 4th shakl, that is muntij. And then the second one he mentioned min mujibaitaini surah kulliya wal kubra juz'iyya. So we have any 2 positive any statements, the first being universal, the second any being particular. The first any premise any is universal, second premise is particular, but both are positive any sentences. So the example is kullu insan hayawan, all any humans any are beings, wa ba'dul jismi insan, and some yani bodies are humans. Then the natija is ba'dul hayawan jism, some yani beings any are, some beings any are bodies, some beings are body. So this is any the example any of the second type any within any the fourth yani shakl. And then we have the third type. The third type the author mentioned min salibatin kulliya surah. So the first premise is saliba kulliya. It is a negative universal. Wa mujiba kulliya kubra. The second premise is mujiba kulliya, yani universal positive. So an example will be this is an example of saliba kulliya. La shay'a minal insani bifarasin. Nothing from humans a horse. Nothing from humans a horse. Meaning no humans are horses. Wa kullu natiqin insan. And every intellectual beings are humans. One natija. The natija will be saliba kulliya. That is la shay'a minal farasi binatiqin. Nothing from the horse is an intellectual being. So this is an example of what we say. The first premise is saliba kulliya. The second premise is mujiba kulliya. So you have this khissa here, but it is just one, and it is followed by kulliya. So no problem. What is the problem if there are two khissa, yani negativity and particular? So in this situation, no problem, no issue, because it is only one saliba. So this is the third example. The fourth one, that is muntij, he said yata'allafu min mujibatin kulliyatin surah. Yani the first premise is mujiba kulliya wa salibatin wa kulliyatin kubra. The second premise is saliba kulliya. So the example is kullu insan hayawan. So kullu insan hayawan is an example of it is a positive statement, and it is universal. You have kullu insan, all humans are beings. And then he mentioned wala shay'a minal farasi bi insan. Nothing from horses are humans. Wa natija. The natija is saliba juz'iyya. Wa hiya laysa ba'dul hayawan bi faras. Yani some beings are not horses. Aywa. And then the fifth one, this is the istisna. This is the one that is the exceptional case. So he mentioned yata'allafu min mujibatin juz'iyya. So in the first premise is mujiba juz'iyya. So now we have one khissa here. Wa min salibatin kulliyatin kubra. And the second premise is saliba kulliya. So now you have second premise saliba. The first premise juz'iyya. So there is a combination of khissatain. But again he mentioned this is the exceptional case. This is the exceptional case. That's what in Sullam he mentioned. So he gave the example ba'dul hayawan insan. Some beings are humans. Wala shay'a min al hajari bi hayawan. And there is nothing from the stones are beings. Wa natija saliba juz'iyya. The conclusion is particular negative. Wahiya laysa ba'dul insan bihajarin. Yani some humans are not stones. So these are the five muntij of the fourth shakal. The five muntij of the fourth shakal. So as far as the durub al-aqima, the ones that cannot give valid conclusions, they are altogether 11, because all we have 16 in our chart. So if we say that 5 are muntij, so meaning 16 minus 5, how much we get? We get 11. So 11 we have all these examples which I think no need for me to go through. We are just concerned about the muntija. So now if you look at the forms, the first form we have 4, that is muntij. The second shakal we have 6. The third shakal also we have 4. And then last we have 5. So if we add for example 4 plus 6 plus 4 plus 5, altogether we have 19. Altogether we have 19. 19 out of 64, because 64 how we get? Yeah, 16 for every shakal, 16 times 4, we get 64. So out of 64, yani 19 of the types yani that are muntij. So this yani basically as what any the author yani mentioned. He said وَرَابِعٌ عَدَمُ جَمْعِ الْخِصَّتَيْنِ إِلَّا بِسُورَةٍ فَفِيهَا يَسْتَبِينِ. So the condition any of the fourth any shakal, that there is no combination of khisatain any as what any we mentioned, that is particular and negative, except any in one case where the minor premise any is mujiba juz'iyya and the major premise saliba kulliyya, is what we mentioned number 5 just now. And then any he mentioned famuntijun li awwalin arba'a. The first shakal, the types any that are muntij, they are 4. Kathani, likewise any the second shakal. Summa salisun fasittatun. As for the third one, it is 6. That's what any we mentioned last week. So yeah, that's what we mentioned any last week. We have 6. Warabi'un bi khamsatin. And the fourth any shakal any how many any we have? We have khamsa. These are the 5 any muntij. Qad antaja wa ghayru ma dhakartuhu lam yuntija. So other than that, there is not muntij. So how many any there is not muntij? 64 any we minus 19. So we get 45. So 45 what you call it are the types any that do not give any natija, the proper natija. And then any the author any mention وَتَتْبَعُ النَّتِيجَةُ الْأَخَصُّ مِنْ تِلْكَ الْمُقَدِّمَاتِ هَكَذَا زُكِنْ. So whenever yani you have any the khissa, the particular and the saliba in any of the premise, the natija will also follow the negativity or the being particular. So this is any a principle that whenever yani you have any in an argument, you have a negative any sentence, the natija will always any be negative. If you have any a particular in one any of the premise, then the natija any will also be particular. So inshallah yani for today yani we will stop here, and inshallah yani we will continue with this in our next lesson. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.